Splinterlands has been on a little bit of a win streak lately. The VRUZ promo card was a huge success. After much anticipation, we finally have the release of the land white paper, and after a dismal performance during the bear market, some card prices are finally experiencing a little bit of a pump. So, is now the time to sell out your cards while the getting is good? We're talking all about it in today's video. Hey everyone, and welcome back. This is the Part-Time Economist, and in today's video I wanted to draw some comparisons between the action that we're seeing in Splinterlands assets now as we get ready for land versus some of the price action that we saw back in 2021 during the SPS Airdrop, because I do think there's a lot of parallels that we can use as we kind of think through some of these decisions. Now, I want to be very clear. This is just me kicking around some ideas in my head. I'm going to present two different arguments, and to be completely honest with you all, I'm not really sure which one I even think has the most weight at this point. So please do not take this as any kind of a financial advice video, and definitely do not make any kind of decisions based on what I say here. It's just me kicking around some ideas, and I thought that you all might enjoy hearing them as well. So let's start off with the very basics. For those of you who do not know, we have been waiting for years for Splinterlands to finally get moving on this land, and we finally have a white paper which essentially tells us how land is going to work. For those of you who do not know, essentially with land, you will own a plot of land, you can stake your monsters on this land, and essentially they will work, they will produce these various resources for you, so kind of like a stream of passive income. Now, if we think of these monsters, if we think of these assets as essentially revenue generators, right, because that's essentially what they are, you stake them, you get some passive revenue. It's very, very similar to what we saw in the SPS airdrop of 2021. So with that airdrop, essentially the team came out, they said, hey, we want to release this SPS governance token, and we're going to distribute it once daily for the next 365 days to anyone that owns Splinterlands assets. Now, the type and quantity of assets that you have determines how much SPS that you get. And this was really cool because simply owning these assets gave you passive income, kind of like what's going on with land. And there are some differences which I will get into later, but just in the general sense, think of it this way. You owned an asset for the SPS airdrop, you got SPS, you stake an asset with land, you get rewards and essentially resources for doing that, right? So kind of a similarity there. So if we agree, and again, I'm not saying this is necessarily the case, but just for this first argument, consider that they're at least somewhat similar. If we look at it this way, we can actually go back to the SPS airdrop and see what that did for asset prices. So if you're looking at this chart specifically of dark energy crystals, before the airdrop was announced, they were very, very low, just kind of hanging out there at their peg value, kind of fluctuating around peg value. Once this SPS airdrop is announced, indeed, we can see just as what you would expect. If people know that they are going to get additional value from holding an asset, they will want that asset, it will increase in value. So we see a massive, massive increase in the price of the dark energy crystal cryptocurrency. And just as you would expect, once people know that the airdrop is going to start ending, that asset isn't going to have as much utility anymore, you can see that a gradual drawdown in the price of DEC starts to happen as people say, hey, this airdrop is ending, other people are going to be selling out, I want to sell now while the price is high, I don't want to wait till the very last day of the airdrop because the value that I'm going to get from selling now and realizing a higher price on my dark energy crystals is better than me holding them all the way to the end, even though I get a few more days of airdrop because I'm going to sell them at such a low point, right? So there's kind of a race to hold on for as long as you can, but also to be the first to kind of sell out while the price is still high. And that's what I want to carry over now if we're thinking about land. Because if we're thinking about land, essentially you're going to stake these monsters, you're going to get some kind of a return on your investment, right? Again, it can be production points, it could be resources, but just think of it in big, broad, general terms. There's going to be some percentage overall return, right? Maybe you have to trade some assets or go through liquidity pools, but in general, there's going to be a certain percentage of return that you're getting on those staked assets. Generally speaking, whenever a new staking pool, a new DeFi protocol comes out, the rewards are the highest. Not a lot of people are doing it. People see those high rewards, they come in, the rewards get pushed down lower. And especially if we're thinking of something like land, where let's suppose that you can generate these resources, or you're getting this SPS airdrop and it only lasts for so long, there's a definite time frame on when that becomes distinctly less profitable, just as we saw with the SPS airdrop. So, and again, I'm not saying I'm 100% convinced here, but if we accept that analogy, we could kind of envision that there might be a similar situation with the assets, right? When people first see, oh, this staking is going to come out, there's going to be insanely high APY on it, I'm going to put all my monsters there. More people start coming in, the rewards kind of normalize, people say, hey, I can sell these assets, I can get better return elsewhere. Or if it gets towards the end of rewards being emitted for this, I'm going to go ahead and sell out now and move on to something else. So if we accept that analogy, there could very much be a possibility of a price increase of the assets followed by a decrease as people kind of realize that there's better opportunities out there. However, I also want to present the opposite view because, like I said, I'm just thinking through this. I'm not by any stretch trying to advise or give advice. The counterpoint to that, if we look at this graph, remember, we can see that DEC does indeed pump when the airdrop is announced and it kind of trails off. However, this is the key point. If we overlay a graph of the Bitcoin price from a similar time period, we can see that the general trend is virtually identical, right? Yes, the magnitude of those changes is a little bit different, but if we're looking at it, we can see that the line of price increase between Bitcoin and DEC happens very, very similar. Like that inflection point is almost the exact same. We see that the peak, again, is reached very much at almost the same time. Now, once things start to go down, and again, I'm using Bitcoin as kind of a proxy for the general crypto market, once the market as a whole enters a bear market, again, we can see both of them decline. Now, there's a couple key points. I would say that at least some of that action is due to the underlying movement in the crypto market, right? SPS, DEC, Splinterlands as a game, it's going to be influenced by the broader crypto market. However, note that once that divergence starts between the peak of DEC and the peak of Bitcoin, we can see that DEC falls further and much faster. And again, that speaks to them both being similar in that they're both cryptos, but SPS has unique things going on with it that don't go on with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has things going on with it that don't go on with DEC. So there is a little bit of a difference there. And I think you could make a good argument either way. You could say that, hey, a lot of the price action was just simply due to the bull market, right? But you could also make the case that there are inherent differences and that the SPS airdrop giving people that massive incentive to hold DEC and then knowing that that incentive is going to end, I think you could make a very valid point that that played a role as well. So where does this leave us with regards to the upcoming land? I think we can break it into two distinct categories. On the one hand, when we look at land, the production points that you're going to get, the resources that you're going to generate depend on the level, the rarity of the cards, and perhaps the addition, right? So the older cards get more value. So I see this having two distinct impacts. 4 cards that you are using in every single match, right? These are your carry cards. These are your tanks. These are your ones that you are playing in the brawls, you are playing in the tournaments. They are winning you and you are getting loot chests, you are getting money, right? You are not going to be staking those, right? Because you're earning more from them by playing than you are staking them. So I would imagine the cards that are really good at gameplay, the effect that they're going to have is going to be a little bit incidental, right? Because they're already being used for their primary purpose. I think the cards that will benefit from this the most are the cards that are rare, the cards that are high level, but that have historically been undervalued simply because they weren't good cards, right? So if we go back, we look at some of the legendary cards, the rare cards, we know that there's always going to be that one that, yeah, it's a legendary card, but it is valued much lower than comparable legendaries, right? Simply because it's not that good in the game. There's not a lot of use cases for it. So if I can stake an undervalued card, get those returns on it because it's still a legendary, then I would imagine that it is going to have more of a change in valuation versus something that people are already piling into because it is so good in the game. But again, like I said, that is just my complete spitballing thoughts. You might have a completely different opinion, and I'd love to hear your opinion. Do you think that it's even valid at all to draw a comparison between the SPS Airdrop and land? In my opinion, I do think there's at least some room for comparison, right? Because we're introducing new utility to cards, and some people might disagree, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, not financial advice. I just want to reiterate that once more. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.